Let's move to the second one. Okay, this is also very important. So almost similar to the first module, first question, what camera to purchase, it's same here, right? So points to consider when buying a camera gear, right? So these are the little points. Let's say that's a broader question. Now we are coming into like breaking it into small segments. What are the things that you need to consider, small points that you need to consider when buying camera gear as a whole, not just a body and a lens, but as a whole. Because let's say you are a bird photographer or a wildlife photographer, sometimes you have a massive lens attached to your body, so mirrorless has made the body small and the lens is big. So kind of they say that there is the it's lens heavy. We call the term lens heavy. So camera can tilt in front. So you can't keep it in your hand all day. Wildlife don't come and smile at you. You have to wait you have to wait for the wildlife to do something, like catch a prey or something. So you have to take a tripod, right? So the tripod, you have something called the gimbal attachment to the tripod. Those are expensive equipment. So when you put it into that, you can turn the camera any way you want, up, down, tilt, diagonal, anyway, just by moving the camera on the tripod. Now, traditional tripod, you can't do that, right? So little things like that, you're going to break it down and just going to find out what are the accessories that can be included and the points to consider when buying camera gear. So don't go and blindly buy a camera, right? Okay. So we are looking at all camera and all camera related accessories, right? I'm not going to go deep into studio accessories because my audience, you all are not ready to go into studio accessories as such, and this is not the course, right? Okay. So what are the accessories? Include camera bodies. We looked at it, we spoke about it, and then we looked at lenses too. So we have various lenses. I'll explain about some lenses here. Then we looked at, when you go look at flashes, flash triggers, I have some stuff here, I'll show you, right? Tripods, right? Monopods, you would have heard about tripods, monopods, right? Filters. So you attach a filter to your lens, right? And that gives you different perspectives, different view of things, something like that. Okay. And then you have dry cabinets, dry boxes, very important. I'll talk about it, where all of you who has a camera must have this, and lens, especially a lens, you must have this. Okay. Memory cards, very important, small chip, but so important. If you're a professional, you'll know how important your data is. When you lose it, you're gone, your credibility is gone, right? And then maybe if you're amateur also, maybe you have pictures from your past, how to back them up, we'll talk about it. Camera bags, so how do you store it? Whether you have a big bag, a small bag, a pouch, if you are carrying it, we talk about it. And then very important, you have a good laptop or a iMac, MacBook with good specifications. So yeah, we're going to look at also editing, right? We won't talk a lot about editing, but we're going to look at it. Okay, let's move. So let me talk about a few recommended gear, right? So I'll not be biased when I say recommended gear. I'll just recommend things which I feel are good for a price to performance wise. I don't know how it's going to change after 1st Jan for us Sri Lankans, but as of now, it looks okay, right? So let's look at the recommended gear. Here is a camera that I feel, if you're a total beginner, some of you had mentioned that you don't even have a camera. Canon has this offering, Canon M50 Mark II. It's a crop sensor. It's a small body. So if you are thinking, okay, I don't want to carry a big camera, and go somewhere, everyone will look at me. I don't want to go to a family event taking a big camera. M50 Mark II is a good camera. They had a earlier version M50, and this is the Mark II. Not a huge upgrade, but the camera has stood its test of time, and it's a good camera. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of this camera? Is lightweight. It's lightweight, so it's not bulky like some of my DSLRs that I have. It's lightweight, so it's easy. If you are thinking of, I want to get a good image quality other than my mobile phone, you may not be having a really good mobile phone, but I want a lightweight but gives good image quality. Okay, this is the camera for you, right? The lenses are also quite lightweight. So if you look at this lens here, attachment here, it's a 15 to 45 millimeter lens, right? And that's sometimes it's a very small lens. It's not heavy at all. You can quickly take this and take wide shots of your pictures of your kids park or anything without being intrusive. right? So now if you go, when we go to shoot in and around Colombo, if you carry a big camera and take a couple or a family to shoot, they'll ask, permit you have you paid for it? Have you paid for the photo shoot and all that? So if you just take the small camera, take your kid to the park and shoot, won't be a big issue, right? So don't break the rules or the laws. But I mean, if you are shooting your own kid, you don't have to pay. But this is non-intrusive, lightweight camera. It's a medium sensor. Sorry, it's a crop sensor APS-C camera. So it's a good sensor. It's one step below the full frame camera. You have 24 megapixels. That's very good. So you can crop into an image. You can get good resolution. The pricing is also good. I'm not going to discuss the pricing here. You can just Google it and see. Different manufacturers have different pricing, but relatively for how high prices are today, this camera is good, right? But two downsides. You don't have a good battery life, so you might have to take 2-3 batteries if you're doing a longer shoot. If you're let's say you're outdoor, you're camping or whatever, you have to take 2-3 batteries, and no 4K option. So if you are doing light videos for your Instagram or whatever, there's no 4K option. That's a downside. Okay, so that's just one camera if you want to purchase. Number two is Sony a6600. So Siva had asked about a vlogging camera. This is fine too. It's a what do you call, it's a crop sensor, but this is also a good camera. But I think it's a little bit higher on the price. But it has a good sensor, very good image sensor. It's lightweight. You can use this for vlogging as well. And most importantly, it has 4K, right? And Sony is known to have good image stabilization, not for photographers, even for photography, but for videographers. When you take the camera and move, it gives good stabilization because it's not wobbly all the time or moving, right? But one downside is it's a little expensive than the 5 Mark II I showed you, M50 Mark II. It's a little bit expensive, but it's a better overall camera than the M50 Mark II. It has tremendous amount of features. So your preference, you can go for the M50 Mark II or Sony a6600, right? So disclaimer, I'm not affiliating any of these cameras, or I'm not giving any names of any manufacturers. Just my opinion on what you can get, or I can recommend you a 1DX Mark III, right, or a EOS R3. Those are so expensive, but I don't think you will be needing that much of a camera for now if you are a hobbyist, right? So here is a little bit of an advanced camera, the Canon EOS R8, right? So I am actually hoping to get one of these now. Because it has a very good image sensor, a full frame image sensor, but a good one at it. Even in the full frame, the manufacturers have made sure that they have a better sensor, and there are segments even in that, right? So that detailed it is. So this is a good camera, a good pricing. Starts off at $1,500 in the US in Canon. I'm mentioning the prices because those are official prices. Holiday seasons, it reduced to quite a bit. So for the price you pay, this is a solid camera, right? It's a solid camera for the price you pay. But you might think, oh, that's upwards almost 500,000 Sri Lankan rupees, so might not be your camera. So, but image quality is excellent. It's a full frame camera, right? And it's a hybrid camera. What do you mean by hybrid is it shoots really good stills, photographs, as well as very good video capabilities. It has a bunch of frame rates that are good, right? So it has 4K video, but only downside is, as I told you before, no stabilization. So when you're hand holding it, it can wobble a little bit. So maybe for, like Siva asked, for vlogging, it may not be good, but just go and do research on it, right? Reasonably budget friendly. For the category it is, for the full frame, it's reasonably less priced, right? If you look at something like the R6 Mark II, they're expensive. If you look at something like the Sony a7S3 or the a7R5, I think those are so expensive. Those run into almost 800,000, a million. Those are expensive. $2,000, $2,300, $4,000, something like that. So relatively good camera for this price range, especially if you are looking at to do videos and photos both. Right, moving along. Nikon D780. Yes, why I included this is I wanted to put a Nikon camera also. Plus, it's a DSLR. It's not a mirrorless. All these three that we spoke before are mirrorless. It's a DSLR. It's a solid camera. It's built like a tank. These 5D Mark IIIs and cameras a generation before, they are built like a tank, right? This Canon is also very, very, Nikon is also very, very good camera. 780, I have the D610 and I have worked with the D750. This is the latest offering, 780. I mean, when I say latest, in the series, right? So good image quality, 24 megapixel, good enough megapixels, great low light performance, 4K video you get, but the problem is the camera is big and bulky, and you have to the lens, when you put a good lens also on top of it, it will be very bulky, right? But very good offering. So similar price ranged, but mirrorless version of Nikon, you can try the Nikon EZ6 and the EZ6 Mark II, right? So when you say Mark, it means the second version for those who don't know. So EZ2, EZ6 II or EZ6, you can use either. Just do some research on it. Similar priced, yet similar spec, high quality cameras from Nikon, right? D780, Nikon EZ6 or EZ6 II, right? Let's move along a little bit faster. Lenses, okay? So I told you camera bodies, lenses. What are the lenses? So we call this something the holy trinity of lenses. Why is that? Because it covers the whole focal range. So if you look at the first 3 points there, holy trinity of lenses on top, we start from 16 millimeter, and if you look at the bottom, the third point in that, 200 millimeter. That means you can shoot a very wide room with that camera, a huge group with that camera. And also when we come to the third lens, the 200, you can zoom into, let's say, a speaker. You know, I shoot a lot of corporate events. So I take a close-up of the speakers who come. So you have to use this 200 millimeter zoom right into his face, right? And nice portrait of him speaking, him or her speaking, right? So that's the whole device. So you have all these 3 ranges. I'm shooting a wide from the 16 millimeter 35 lens. I'm shooting a telephoto, medium telephoto from 24 to 70. Then my third lens is the 70 to 200. So I'm covering the whole range. That's why they call it the holy trinity of lenses. So professional, you need to have these 3. Okay. And then we have the super telephoto lens for wildlife. So most of you like birding, nature, and you're shooting zoom lenses. So you have ranges. So you have the 100 to 400, you get in Nikon, Canon, everything. And then you have the, what do you call, the 150 to 600. Canon recently released one 200 to 800. And then you have the super zooms, ultra zooms that are 1200 millimeters. So that sometimes one focal range, massive lenses, right? So don't know whether you need it. No, I don't need it, right? So in my type of work, I don't need it, right? So those are expensive lenses. And one of the popular lenses is this Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter. Have any of you heard it about it? Put it in the chat. If you get thumbs up or anything in the chat, yeah, please put anything in the chat. Right? So this is a very popular lens. In Sri Lanka, we have a lot of people using it, right? It's very popular because of the price to performance, again, Sigma, right? Sigma, that's a third party lens. You call it third party because Sigma is not a manufacturer. They do manufacture cameras, but they offer offerings for Canon, Nikon, Sony, Panasonic. They offer their lenses to fit into their mount, Canon's mount or Nikon mount or Sony, right? This is that lens, very popular. They have 2 versions. They have a sports version and a contemporary version. The price differs, but for what you pay, you get a very good lens. Maybe in the long term, maybe Canon is better investment if you want to use it for 10 years. But in the short term, if you want to use it for 3-4 years without any issues, a very solid lens, right? Move along. Flashers, memory cards, and tripods. Okay. Slide got a little messed up there. Right. So flashers. Let me show you a flash. Let me just come out of this and show you a flash. Godox. I use the brand Godox. It's a Chinese brand. Very reliable supplier. Very reasonably priced for the technology it offers. Okay. If you're using flash, say you're doing macro photography, you can use flash to illuminate your subject, right? You can illuminate your subject. So here is that flash. This is the Godox V862. It comes in a different name in the US. I think Wing, V-I-N-G, Godox Wing 3 or something like that, right? Very good power this puts out. And the good thing is, if you see here, you have, I don't know whether you can see this properly. Yes. this has not the AAA or AA batteries. This has its own battery. This is a massive battery. So sometimes if you put those 4 batteries, you have to find the batteries and recharge them all the time. It will only work for about a 5-hour event, but this can go on for about 10 hours, 12 hours, but the battery degrades over time. But so good. This is such a good product. I would recommend, because I had the 2 of this V862. Now I'm using the latest version 3. It recycles faster. That means you can keep on firing faster at certain levels. And most importantly, the battery life is very solid. So a camera that I can flash that I can recommend is Godox. So I am invested in the ecosystem. I have big lights which are in Godox. So, and I'll show you this trigger as well. This is a flash trigger. They call it the flash trigger. This is also a Godox. If you can look at this, if you switch this on, I don't know whether I have batteries in here. Check. Yeah, if you switch this on, if you see here the panel here, it's switched on, right? You can remotely trigger the flashes. Okay, so let's say I put this flash in one corner, I put my other Godox big light in another corner, and I put one behind my head, and I put this on my camera, and then I set here, and I can trigger all these 3 flashes with this unit. Okay, so you can see IR here, IR in remotes. It helps you to trigger these flashes. So it's like you can control these groups of flashes. I know it's a little bit advanced, but let's move along. Just wanted to show what a flash trigger is. Okay, so that's flash triggers. Let me start screen sharing again. Right, so next one is memory cards, something that you really need to invest on. So I just received this couple of days back from one of my friends in UK. This is a SanDisk. I 100% use SanDisk, and I also have Lexa. Lexa is a good brand. SanDisk is really good. Recently they had some issues, but for me SanDisk has worked so well. So just go through with this SanDisk. SanDisk is very good, very good, right? This is a 128 GB model. There are certain numbering schemes here. I'm not going to talk about that, but just go and ask your who you're going to buy what is good. I think for you a 64 GB would suffice. You don't need to go anything beyond. I do a lot of video work, so I need 128 GB, a lot of memory cards. Just go look for SanDisk, look for Lexa. There are also other brands called PNY. There's a PNY brand. I have not used it, but supposedly is good. Okay, but SanDisk works well, Lexa works well. 64 GB is good enough. If you're having 2 ports in your camera, 2 SD card slots, best is you put 2 SD cards and back it up. So when you shoot, and let's say you're shooting from morning to evening wildlife, you have amazing pictures. Let's say you are in Kenya. It's a dream that you are in Kenya, right? And then you take all these pictures, one memory card, you come home, the memory card is corrupt, finished. Think about it, it's finished. All your memories are gone. So if you have 2 memory cards, both memory cards is recording at the same time, but memory cards have become so good, cameras have become so good, there are recovery methods, so you can recover. So chances of that happening are like 1 in a almost 10 million, 100 million, but still you need to be careful. Okay, let's move along. It's 11 o'clock. Tripods. KNF, I can recommend this brand called KNF. Good brand, good pricing. This model, you can note down this model, it's there. Then you get various brands, Chinese brands called this G-Yang. My camera which is in front of me is on a solid video tripod called G-Yang, and so many other different brands. Check for it and buy. This KNF is a good brand. It's available in Sri Lanka, right? And most importantly, you have to find something called the ball head. I don't have it here. Ball head allows you to tilt the camera this way, move the camera up and down. With just a stable tripod, you can't move it. It's fixed. That's it. So for you to frame, you have to move the camera. So make sure that it has a ball head attached, right? So that's flashers, cameras, and tripods. Let's move along. What are the other things? I'm not going to talk about all the other things, right? So make sure that you buy all these, but there are other questions. What are the prices? Can you get a bundle offer, or can you get it down from abroad for cheaper? I mean, for personal use, no? So you can get it down from abroad cheaper. Is there a bundle offer if I just buy a camera, or a new product release? Will they have a early bird offer? Check for all those things. And then you have your current ecosystem. Does that match? If Canon or Sony, does that match? And then buy with a warranty. It's important. You buy the camera with a warranty. Go to a reliable reseller, right? And then do they have a after sales service? When you buy it down and it breaks, what do you do with it? Okay, so is there a local agent? Look for all that, right? So look for brands that offer better third party accessories, right? So Sony is so good, they have a lot of third party accessories, right? So you don't have to buy only Sony because Sony glasses are so expensive. You can look for a lot of third party manufacturer, right? So if they have a lot more third party, that means you can spend less and get good equipment, and you have the choice. As a consumer, you have the choice, right? So always check for reviews online. Always go and look Amazon reviews. There may be fake reviews, but then look for word of mouth. People are saying these cameras are good. Look for those lens choices, right? So and also buy backup gear and check for additional features. They may be having waterproof. They may say, oh, my camera is waterproof, so I can shoot a little bit in the rain, right? So water resistant, waterproof, so I can, okay, just let it fall on the little bit of water, I can quickly take it and wipe it. I can shoot in the rain. Additional features, it has Wi-Fi. Now one good feature is my Canon mirrorless has Wi-Fi. So sometimes what I do is, just to surprise the client, I quickly, in the middle of the event, let's say there's something, nothing else happening, I quickly transfer from my that to my phone, and I quickly show it to them or just WhatsApp it to them, and then they're happy. You make your client happy. So you can do all that. So those are additional features that we didn't have before. 5-10 years ago, we didn't have, we didn't even think of all these features. So check for additional features. So buy backup gear as well, buy backup memory cards, and stuff like that. Okay, and I told you, dry cabinet, dry box. If you are using lenses, you don't have to store your cameras in a dry box. But if you're having interchangeable lenses, it's so important. Or you will get fungi. You'll get fungi on your lenses. You can clean it, but it'll affect your autofocus performance. It'll affect the quality of your lens, right? Okay, let's move along faster, right? Okay, so now let's break it into our second Q&A, right? If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. You can ask questions, right? Sinhaleng ahanna puluwang, Demaleng ahanna puluwang. You can ask me any question if you have any doubts. Don't worry, I can explain this to you. Put it in the chat, anything related to the last module. Let's take just 2 minutes. No questions? So I'm either a good teacher or you all have not understood anything, right? Any question?
Yes, Errol.
Yes.
Errol, I'm Varuna here.
Varuna, yes.
So, yes, sometimes when I'm working with colleagues, so they are saying that Canon giving like a reddish color, and Nikon giving a kind of a yellow color. I mean, yellowish color. So, when it's come to the Sony, so they're saying they are Sony giving the exact color they want. So, is that true, or are there any? Are there any discussions ongoing about that?
Very good question. Very good question, Varun. That's a very good question. So you up to a certain limit, that's right, because Canon does offer kind of like a pinkish color. So we have. I'll talk to you about color balance, colors, how we white balance and everything. So actually, yes, Canon does give sort of like a pinkish color. So what that does is, it's good for skin tones. So for general fair skin tones, this pinkish color is very attractive, right? And as you said, Nikon does offer a little bit of greenish yellowish color, and I'm not very sure when they said that Sony offers the right color. You cannot say that, it's a personal preference, but various camera manufacturers, depending on the lenses, also the body, there is a sort of a shift in color. So sometimes it's preferred, sometimes it's not. So when you say Sony gives the right color, it's a little bit biased, right? So what you can do is, any camera, whatever color you give, if you shoot it right, you can put it into your editing software and tweak the color. If you know how white balance works, you can tweak the color. Okay, Varuna, is that clear? Do you understood that?
Yeah, thank you very much. And other one is many of them convert into Sony because of they are telling that Sony given true colors. I mean, so that's why I asked the question. I think I got the point.
Right.
Thanks.
Yes, correct. Thank you, Varun. Thank you for that question. That's a good question. Yes, different camera manufacturers have different colors. So I shoot with a lot of Canon users, and they would always say about Canon colors are good. But generally, also in the world, Canon colors are good. But I think all these manufacturers have good color, and as a professional, it's up to you to get whatever color you get to put it into your editing workflow and fix it. Right. So different manufacturers have different colors, and I think everyone has a different taste in color, right? So you can actually take that color and tweak it to how you want. So like they are saying, it can't be that Sony is giving the actual color. That's not a right statement. It's kind of biased, but all manufacturers offer a different color and good solid color, right? But I do agree sometimes Sony gives very good low light performance. Sony is doing very good low light performance. The cameras you can shoot basically in dark with a small light. You shoot very well. The Sony is very good in the autofocus in their low light performance as well. Right? Any other questions? You can take one more question. Anyone else? Don't worry, just unmute your mic and ask me questions. There's no wrong questions. Okay, anything related to gear? No? All right. So we